Welcome in the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And that is, of course, cousin Shane, who goes by Big Cock Shane on this one, because it's a South Carolina preview. How's it going, buddy?
Oh, I'll take things I've never heard in my life before for $1,000, Alec.
Well, our fall camp preview series rages on, Shane, with them South Carolina Gamecocks. And, man, this is one of the hardest teams to peg, but, you know, doing a little research, going on a deep dive, kind of refreshing what happened last season, I think this could be one of those teams, Shane, that's flying under the radar, that maybe they do a little bit better without the hype, without the anticipation, and maybe they steal a game or two here and have a really good season here in Columbia.
You may be right, Mike. And one of the things that I'm thinking you may be right is because I've been so down on them. There's been three teams, Florida, Texas A&M, but the top of the list has always been South Carolina. And I look like I got two heads when I bring it up, and I'm just kind of getting ahead of it, but we were playing a video game. And I'm not going to bore you with the dynasty that we're in, but year 2, Lenore Sellers wins the Heisman. So maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no doubt, Shay. Well, you're going seasons ahead. Let's rewind just real quick. Last season, what happened? We went 5-7, unfortunately, but nearly made a bowl game. Just had to beat Clemson there at the end. Again, 5-7, but it just seemed like, fair or not, Shane, there was so much momentum, and it kind of all the air came out of the balloon. Lose to North Carolina in the opener, give up 9 sacks, and it just felt like a deflating moment that could have killed the season. It didn't, but you know, there was that Florida loss that came down to the wire. I mean, again, this is what we're doing with South Carolina. If not for this, if not for that, if not for this, all of a sudden we're selling, hey, 3 years in a row we made a bowl game. I don't know that there's a South Carolina coach that can put that on his resume. They did go 3-1 to end the season, and the defense really started to turn it around by the end of the season. So that's another reason for optimism. If they can recapture that momentum, South Carolina could have one of the most improved defenses, not only in the entire SEC, but perhaps the country.
No, I'm right there with you, man. And I think part of you is like, okay, we brought back what we like about this team, and we're hard resetting maybe what we didn't. And I feel like that's kind of what we got here with South Carolina, and maybe that's why there's so many question marks around the program, because there's going to be a lot of new faces on the field as well.
Yeah, so let's get to the coaching staff real quick, Shane. Of course, Shane Beamer, the man, you run his ass out of town already. Not me, though. I love me some Shane Beamer. He's 20-18 after 3 seasons on the job. He's 10-14 in the SEC and 1-1 in bowl games, Shane. But again, I think they're recruiting a lot better than anticipated. I think the thing that really hurt South Carolina, fair or not, Shane, and I just don't know if there's much that can be done about this. You know, they pay people during, we're in this NIL transfer portal area. We'll get to their transfer class. They've added a bunch of guys, but I think it's also fair to say that they've been rated in the transfer portal seemingly every year since the portal's been adopted. And I don't know what the cure for that is. Maybe winning big and getting all your boosters behind donating to keep players, because again, they are recruiting better than perhaps they ever have. But again, if you're, let's say, 20th in the country, you're about 8th or 9th, 10th in the SEC in recruiting, and that's the challenge of being in this conference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the league giveth and taketh away, and sometimes it giveth when you're hot. And I think that's kind of where we're at with South Carolina. You've got to remember when that big momentum wave came, 2 years ago after beating Tennessee and beating Clemson, it's like, people wanted to play there. Fans wanted to be there. Boosters wanted to pay there, and I feel like that's what they just need. They just need some big wins. They need some victories under their belt, and I think this is a program that could be a sleeping giant, Mike. I mean, if it wakes up and then all of a sudden we got the Spurrier days back, good God, with the booster money and the transfer portal, I mean, this is a place that can explode overnight.
Right, and then the coaching continuity is interesting, Shane, because we're bringing back both our offensive and defensive coordinators from last year. But we lost our great special teams coordinator, Pete Limbo. He's a head coach once again. But they've hired a guy, Joe DiCamilla, Shane. If you know that name, he was spent 34 years in the NFL, 32 as a special teams coach. He was at Texas last year. His official role was a special assistant to Steve Sarkisian. I don't know what the hell that means. But again, 34 years in the NFL. If he can get that to translate to the college level, hopefully there's not much of a drop-off and we can keep Beamer Ball, officially trademarked now, Beamer Ball, well, hopefully we get sued for saying that, comes back to Columbia because it did, as great as Pete Limbo was, it took a little bit of a dip last year.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of splashy special teams plays that we saw the first 2 years. If we can get that back with this Joe DiCamillis, that would be cause for optimism. They're also bringing back Sean Elliott. Shane, he was interim head coach. He was at Georgia State as a head coach for several seasons, and they ran the ball like crazy. We don't need to flash back to what they did to Tennessee, Shane, but they ran all over them. One of the most efficient running teams in the country, and that's where South Carolina really, really struggled last season. So if Sean Elliott can help us in that area, that's what he is. He's run game coordinator here and tight ends coach for the Gamecocks. We turn that around with this Lenora Sellers, who we're going to talk a lot about. All of a sudden, a weakness becomes a strength. That's how you win some of these games that people think you may be losing. They're also new receivers coach, Shane, Mike Furry. He was in the NFL a long time. He actually led the NFC in catches back in 2006 here. Played for the Rams, played for the Lions. He was a head coach at Limestone University the last 2 years and had a 8-4 record each of those seasons. So head coach coaching receivers, I mean, that sounds like an upgrade to me. And then finally, Marquell Blackwell, new running backs coach, Shane. He was at A&M last year. He was at Ole Miss the year before, where he coached Quinshaw Junkins his freshman year. So this guy knows what it takes to be an SEC running back.
You know you're getting old when coaches used to be on your fantasy football team. I think I had Furry there for a little bit. Hey, again, on Shane Beamer either, I'm not down on him. I want him to succeed. I want all Shanes to succeed. Shane's not a popular name. You know, when you go to a Ron John down there in Florida and you look at those little surfboards, and it's tough because you can't find your name because there's not enough popular Shanes out there. So I encourage all Shanes to succeed in life so that we can start bringing home some souvenirs.
Is it one of those deals, Shane, where it's like Sean with a S-E-A-N, Sean S-H-A-W-N, Sean S-E-E-N? You know, it's like it's every damn name close to Shane, but it ain't Shane.
That's right. There's Sam's, there's Steve's, you know, Spencer's sometimes show up, and it's just like, what? No Shane, but there's a Sean here. Yeah, no, I'm right there with Mike, Brad, you know, Ben. These popular names have always been around, but you're trying to get a coffee mug there at Gatlinburg. Good luck finding a Shane. So yeah, we need Beamer to succeed here, just for the names.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Shane, so on to the roster here. Returning production for the Gamecocks. Again, offense, not great. But again, the offense really wasn't that good outside of Spencer Rattler and Xavier Legette, who were awesome. Wish they were back, but only 25% of our offensive production is back. That is 15th in the SEC, Shane. Only 4% of the passing yards are back. That's 13th in the SEC. Rushing yards, 14% are back. That is dead last in the SEC. Receiving yards back, 24.8%. That's 14th in the SEC. And then offensive line snaps, 58% is back. That's 10th in the SEC. But it's a complete opposite on the other side of the football, Shane, which, again, is give me optimism here. South Carolina, third in the SEC in defensive returning production. That's a great indication that the unit will get much improved this fall. Number 1 in tackles back in the SEC. Number 3 in tackles for loss. 7th in sacks, but 3rd in interceptions and passes defended. So again, if the defense can bow up here early in the season while we're finding our footing on the offensive side of the football, Carolina's going to be in every game to start the season. That's the recipe for success.
Yeah, I really do think, like you said, toward the tail end of the season, there were flashes of what 2024 is going to look like. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons for optimism, besides some of the big names we're going to get to here in a second, for South Carolina fans coming into this year.
Right. And so let's get to the portal, Shane, where On Three had South Carolina as the number 10 portal class in the country.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you need to kind of reinvigorate this roster. 24/7 Sports, a little bit lower. Get the hell out of here,
Yeah.
24. But they had them 16th. But again, still, so a top 20 transfer class led by Rocket Sanders. We're dead last in the SEC in rushing. So let's bring us a guy that when he was last healthy 2 years ago, led the SEC in rushing during the regular season. He could be the biggest impact transfer in the entire country if he lives up to his potential there in Columbia. Receiver Jared Brown, we really need help at receiver, Shane, from Coastal Carolina. He was I think it's Sun Belt Conference, freshman of the year down there at Coastal Carolina, so impact player there. Gilbert Edmond on the defensive line, Shane, he was at Florida State, but he was at South Carolina previously. And I don't know if you remember this. We played it from Beamer, but this was a guy, he said, hey, NIL played a part in him leaving, and he found out the grass ain't always greener. So Imagine going to Florida State, coming back to South Carolina. That's what they're getting in Gilbert Edmond. He must love being a Gamecock. Running back Oscar Ottaway from North Texas. He's going to get a lot of run this year. Defensive lineman Kyle Kennard from Georgia Tech. Receiver Amari Huggins-Bruce from Louisville. He will get some play. Robbie Ashford, quarterback at Auburn. He's got a ton of experience. That's what you want in a backup quarterback. He's an experienced guy in this league. And an offensive lineman from Oklahoma, Aaron Parks. Those are kind of the standouts. But again, this is a top 10 portal class in the country. It's exactly what the Gamecocks needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, obviously Rocket Sanders is the one that kind of stands out to me, but is there one in particular that you're like, hey, man, this may be the best get out of this transfer portal class?
Probably Jared Brown, the receiver, because they really need help at receiver. I know they got Nick Harbor, but again, he was a true freshman, and hopefully he takes that big jump. But they're going to need someone to kind of help. We can't have all the coverage going to Nick Harbor. You know what?
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck catching him.
Right. And then a recruiting class, Shane, number 18 in the country. And again, this is the reason why Beamer, I think, should be judged as a program that he's got on the right direction. Because again, he's bringing in all these studs. They were really had issues on the line of scrimmage last year. Well, this is where we shine. They brought in a 5-star defensive lineman, Dylan Stewart, number 2 edge player in the country. He's going to play right away. He may even, I don't want to say start because they're actually pretty loaded on the defensive line, but he's going to be an impact player day one. He's the one that there was that viral photo that just went out, Shane, night and day different from the day he got there to now. He looks like he aged about 18 years just in the couple months he's been there. And then a ton of 4-stars. Shane, number 2 offensive tackle in the country, Josiah Thompson. Number 5 tight end in the country, Michael Smith. Number 8 linebacker, Fred Johnson. Number 17 linebacker, Wendell Gregory. Number 40 receiver, Mazo Bennett, who was committed to Tennessee there for a minute, Shane. And then number 2, JUCO defensive lineman, Jerome Simmons. I think all these kids are going to have to play this year for Carolina. And I'm not saying start, but just contribute in some way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the key, brother. It's just bringing more talent in, and obviously you're going to lose some off the back end, and they have the last couple of years, but they've got a lot of competitive depth on that roster now. I think this may be, especially on that defensive side, a deeper unit coming into 2024.
Right, and again, that's what you got to do at South Carolina. You know what I mean? Where it goes without saying, Shane. Again, we go back to the Beamer Bowl, which people think that's cheesy and they hate hearing that, but you basically had to do that to win some games.
Right.
I don't want to say tricks, but you had to steal possessions. You had to shine where other people weren't, making long field goals. We'll get to their punters outstanding. These are the things they had to do to give them a chance on Saturday. But how sustainable is that really? You ain't going to trick people forever. You got to beat them on the line of scrimmage. You got to man up. And they fell short. Let's call it what it is. That's why they struggled last year, bringing in all these guys. If they can just get to be an average on the offensive and defensive line, I think South Carolina, again, is going to be a lot better than people anticipate.
Well, and I think that's the point, Mike, is it I mean, you want to be known as the special teams coach. I get that. But at the end of the day, that just needs to be another feather in your cap. That doesn't need to be the whole cap. You don't have to always go out there and, fake a fourth down punt or something like that, steal momentum. But it will come in handy if you're in one of those back and forth games and you just need to steal a possession. That's really where I think that will excel.
Right. So real quick, Shane, the position breakdowns on the offense, I'm grading the offensive line, which is interesting. That was the biggest weakness last year. I think it may be the biggest strength here with 4 returners on the offensive line back. Running backs, again, we're returning the least amount of rushing production in the entire SEC, yet I'm saying this could be the second best unit. I think that gives you an indication of how inexperienced we are on that side of the ball. But we are bringing back Juju McDowell, who's awesome, Rocket Sanders, and then Oscar Ottaway from North Texas. So I think that's a good group. Quarterbacks, I'm rating third with Lenora Sellers, Robbie Ashford, and the freshman Dante Reno. And then receivers, tight ends. Again, I'm putting them last because outside of Nick Harbor, there's not a lot of names people will know. It doesn't mean that they aren't good. I mean, this time last year, very few people were talking about Xavier Leggett, Shane, being a very good player. They turned him into a first-round draft pick. So they got to hope there's another Xavier Leggett on this roster right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, pause for a second. Is Luke Doty not out there?
Yeah, he is. They put him at receiver this year.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess we could include this because I always thought Luke Doty, when you're talking about that running back room, again, he's just one of those guys that can play everywhere. You talk about McDowell, another one of those guys that he could be a receiver. So there's a lot of these like kind of X factors that are going to be floating around. And that's one of the things I like about South Carolina. But you now have that bell cow you can turn around and hand the ball to. And I don't think people forget. You have such a short-term memory. You forget how good Rocket Sanders was, and all it's going to take is one 40-yard run as he barrels through somebody, and they're just going to say, holy shit, where's this guy been hiding the last 2 seasons?
Right. And I don't know, Shay, there could be something to be said for, again, Spencer Rattler was awesome. He's a lot better than I gave him credit for this time last year. We keep mentioning Xavier Leggett because he was otherworldly. But as good as they were, the defense knew what was coming.
Yeah.
Now, they couldn't stop it, a lot of those 2 in particular. They shut down everything else. But I think this year, as strange as it sounds, I don't think defenses have any clue what's coming, and it could be a variety. I mean, I think it's going to have to be a mixed bag. I think one game they're going to have to run. One game they're going to have to pass. There's going to have to be misdirection. Like you said, Luke Doty, put him all over the field, making plays however they can. So I think perhaps it makes this offense more difficult to prepare for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think of last year too, nothing against. I think he was a superb quarterback, and I think he's gonna excel in the NFL. I think he'll have his opportunities, but I think you need an improviser these days, especially a program like South Carolina that's kind of in that swing season where it could go one way or the other. And a little you look at Mizzou last year with Cook, you look at LSU, some of those guys that may be able to do something outside the pocket or extend drives. You just don't know how valuable that can be. So, and they got 2 great quarterbacks. If Sellers doesn't work out, I think Touchdown Robbie has an opportunity too. Another year, he's worked under several coaches. Maybe he takes that step forward too. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's why there's so much confidence in South Carolina, because it's just like how high the ceiling is in that quarterback room.
Right. Well, the ceiling's even higher on the defensive side of the football, Shay. This was very hard to break it down to who's the best because, I'm just picking and choosing here because it's so difficult. But I went with the defensive backs because I love Nick Amamawari and DQ Smith. Both of those guys have been all SEC caliber at one point or time. O'Doyle Fortune is back as all 3 of those starters. Returners, Jalen Kilgore was named freshman All-American by 24/7 Sports, and David Spalding. All those guys played. So we got some standouts in the secondary. I love that unit. Defensive line. Cole Kublik's got this as a top 5 defensive line in the SEC, I believe. Alex Huntley, TJ Sanders, Tonka Hemingway, the all-starters, Brian Thomas, he's played a lot, and then the transfers, Gilbert Edmond and Kyle Kennard, and don't write off the freshman Dylan Stewart, the 5-star. Again, could be a very, very good defensive front here. And then at linebackers, Shane, maybe the best linebacker nobody in the country is talking about, Debo Williams. He was all SEC last season. Bam Martin Scott, another solid piece here. So I put linebackers last, but they may have the best overall player. That should give you an indication that how much talent we have at all three levels on the defensive side of the ball.
Sneaky good, man. Sneaky good, sneaky deep. And that's one thing I think South Carolina is going to need to stay in these ball games. Because there's going to be some youth and inexperience on the opposite side. But if you give them enough time to grow and develop, brother, you know what I'm saying? Enough 3 and outs. You're going to win some football games, brother.
Now, we're going to have a new kicker this year, but we do bring back Kai Kroger at punter, Shane, who's got more touchdown passes than about 10 SEC quarterbacks that are coming back to this conference. Trick play, especially here. Kai for Heisman was a popular trending take the last couple of years, so he's back, outstanding punter. But aside from that, Shane, biggest camp questions for me, Lenore Sellers, is he ready for the spotlight? All indication, all buzz out of Columbia is he is ready.
Yeah.
But there have been many quarterbacks, Shane, that I was told were going to be great, and then the season gets here and all of a sudden they get exposed. I'm not saying that'll be the case, but it's always an unknown till that ball kicks off. I truly do believe. So we'll have to see how ready Lenore Sellers is for his big-time moment. How far has that offensive line progressed? Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be huge because we're going to have to give him time back here. Who steps up at receiver? I think that is another huge question mark. And can the defense recapture that momentum late in the season when they went 3-1? And really, if they were a little bit more productive on offense, probably would have beat Clemson in that season finale and made a bowl game. So those are my biggest camp questions for the Gamecocks.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I would add receivers. Obviously, we won't talk about Juice Wells, but after him, you've got Leggett. You've got some of these guys. Nick, who's the next great South Carolina wide receiver to emerge and be a force on that side of the football? I think that's one of the ones. And just how's this offense going to look? I don't think we mirror what we had last season. This may be a different style. I think you cater to what the Sellers is good at. Now you've got Rocket. You can kind of lean in a little bit more, maybe get a little bit more into that running game. So I'm just kind of interested to see what it looks like overall on the offensive side of football.
Right. All right, Shane, let's get to the schedule breakdown. And if this is your first time watching one of these, how we do it is a likely win, a likely loss, or a toss-up game, and I try to do these as realistic as possible. So bringing up the schedule here, Shane, and I see, unfortunately, and this seems like every year with the Gamecocks, Shane, there's only a couple games here that I have as should be automatic wins, and that is, of course, Old Dominion in the opener at home, Akron to close out the final month of the season, that is also at home, at Vanderbilt, first game in November, and then Wofford, November 23rd, also at home. Did I miss any, in your opinion, Shane? That again, we're sitting here saying what we know today, Gamecocks should absolutely win any of the other games. I mentioned Old Dominion, Akron, Vanderbilt, and Wofford.
Well, Clemson, obviously, but no, I think coming in this year, I think that's the 4 that you've just penciled in as an easy victory.
Right. Now, here's the thing, and I may be completely wrong on this. I hope I am, Shane.
Yeah.
But I got 3 games that I think the Gamecocks are very unlikely to win. Doesn't mean they can't, but I'm just saying unlikely. I'm going to Ole Miss, but that is in Columbia, and they're fired up for the return of Juice Wells, believe me, especially after Kiffin out here tweeting this nonsense. But again, that's more of an indication of how good I think Ole Miss is going to be this year. At Alabama the following week. And the only other one, Shane, again, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I got Missouri, November 16th. And again, that's just because I think Missouri is going to be damn good this year. Gamecocks cannot beat Drinkwitz to save their life. So that also plays into that. But of the 3 games that I said you're unlikely to win, 2 of them are at home. So maybe I'm wrong there. Is there any other games you would add to very unlikely that the Gamecocks get a win.
Well, I'm kind of a little different on that one. I find that game, I'm doing these countdowns, and there's a lot of South Carolina Mizzou games, and I get it. Mizzou's kind of had your number, but there have been some really tight football games in that series. So that one I may have closer to a toss than LSU. I think LSU early because, again, so fresh in the season, that top deal. Right. I'm a little higher on the LSU Tigers. I've got that one as your other loss, but I do think 3 losses are going to be on here.
Well, even in that case, Shane, same thing I just said. LSU is a home game, so never write yourselves off. Unfortunately, it is a noon kickoff.
Yeah,
Come on, give us a night game. They kind of
screwed them on that one there.
But that means I got. This is also seemingly the case every year, Shane. I got 5 toss-ups on the schedule. At least this is how I view it. At Kentucky, huge game there. LSU. Which you said a likely loss, but you're a little bit higher on LSU than I am. At Oklahoma, who knows? I mean, I think Oklahoma could be really good. They could be awful. It remains to be seen how they're going to play week in, week out in the SEC. I like that you're getting them a little bit later in the season. They'll be coming off the Texas game, so who knows? They could have got hammered by Texas. This may be the perfect time to catch Oklahoma. A&M. I think that is a hugely important game. Mike Elko, year 1. You're getting them in Columbia. That's a toss-up for me. And then last but not least, at Clemson, who last time you went down there, you beat them. And who knows? It seems like every year the hype around Dabo gets less and less and less. And if that continues, Shane, there may be one fired coach in that ball game, and it ain't Shane Beamer.
That's right. Them damn khakis on the sideline. Oh, get the hell out of here. Let me just go back to this one here. So before we get going, no, you know what? Let's jump in it. I'm ready.
Okay, so we're picking the games. Again, we're doing this with our South Carolina glasses on here. Best case scenario for them Gamecocks heading into the season. Old Dominion's going to get their old asses stopped here right in the opener. I don't care. This is a pick your score type game, right?
Oh, yeah. Let them take your furniture or whatever they do. Isn't that a brand or something they do? But as far as football, no. This is a big win and a great game to kind of fire up South Carolina fans because I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to be an exciting game, and I think you're going to see a new brand of football here.
Right. So here's the all-important one, Shade. At Kentucky, the Sunglass Bowl. You beaten them 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy, they've got Brock Vandergrift. Oh, they got a running back from Ohio State. They got this mighty defense. They got this. They got that. But you know what they also got, Shane? They got Mark Stoops as their damn football coach. Give me South Carolina Gamecocks. Again, I'm not saying this is going to be an easy one, but everything I just said that we said about South Carolina is virtually true of Kentucky. They got a lot coming back on defense, but they've got not even a new offense for the Gamecocks, but a new offense for Kentucky, new quarterback, new running back, new offensive line coach. I think this is going to be a really low-scoring game.
Yeah.
And it truly could go either way. But again, who's got the better special teams? Who's got Beamer ball, Shane? This is one of those games where it may take a block, a return, what have you. That's going to be a difference in this type of game. So best case scenario, I'm giving South Carolina a win here, week 2 at Kentucky.
It's a tough one, man. It's a tough one. And I've been high on that big. I mean, we just did one. I may be still drinking that blue Kool-Aid. I don't know what it is, Mike. But I think South Carolina's got their hands full. Now, if this were later in the season, maybe we'd be singing a different tune. But we're talking week 2, how important this football game is. I think Kentucky is just too loaded, especially in that receiver room, especially on that defensive front. But so South Carolina, when you talk about secondary, containing those guys, you talk about defensive front, you talk about Cole coming out here and saying how good these boys are. Well, if you stop, Brock, if you stop these receivers, then all of a sudden it comes down to quarterback on quarterback and who can make the plays. And I love Brock. I get it with the phone on the hip and all of that. It looks cool. But if you were a gambling man and you had to put your money on which quarterback will win this duel, give me Sellers all day long. The most, I mean, you talk about one of the craziest freak athletes to be in the SEC. We got to see flashes of it last year. I'm telling you, this is a dude that is going to find ways to move the chains. And like you said, I think it's a low-scoring game, and it's going to come down to one or two drives. And I just think South Carolina will be able to find the last one.
Yeah. Well, that'd be a hell of a start to the season, Shane. Next, we'd have LSU coming to town.
Mm-hmm.
We're red hot. They're coming off Nichols and Southern Cal. I mean, come on, Shane. Come on. I know you love them LSU Tigers. I'm trying to figure out what people are seeing in it. They had the best offense in the country last year. They may have had the worst defense.
Yep.
And virtually everybody from that offense outside of the offensive line is gone. So how big of a step back do they take? This is their first true road test. I still think LSU's defense is going to be a work in progress. So even if South Carolina is struggling, and that may be too strong a word, but if they're still trying to figure things out on the offensive side of the football, there's a real advantage or a real opportunity that South Carolina's offense is better than LSU's defense, and I think there's an opportunity South Carolina's defense is better than LSU's offense. Given now, it could be completely wrong if Garrett Nussmeier comes out here and he's wheeling and dealing early, and they love their receivers down there. We'll see about that, but I still think South Carolina's defensive back's a little bit better. This could be a hard-fought, tough-nosed football game, Shane, but this is where all those damn haters are going to be blown away because I got South Carolina going 3-0. And again, this says, to me, it says more about what I think of LSU. I do not think they should be a preseason top 25 team. They're close. I'm not saying they're horrible, but I'm just not buying the hype right now. Give me South Carolina in Columbia.
Look at you, buddy. You got them shades on, huh? Got them Beamer shades on. I get it. I understand where you're coming from. And this is something we've talked about in the offseason as a notorious trap game for the LSU Tigers. If this thing were at night in Columbia, maybe I could see something, a little piece of miracle. But I'm a little higher on the LSU Tigers. I think that this may be the best offensive line in the country. I believe Nussmeier is a better quarterback than people are giving him credit for. Coach Kelly still finds ways to win 10 football games every single season, and you do that by not dropping a game like South Carolina. But it could be close, brother. This may be a special teams type game. This may be something that, hey, maybe a noon plays in your favor as you start off a little bit slow, thinking you're just going to come up here and kick ass. So, but I just think LSU has too much right now for South Carolina.
Them Tigers are used to playing at night, Shane. They ain't gonna be ready for a day game here, you know.
Yeah, I get it.
But hey, even if you're right, Shane, the schedule sets up well. The following week, Akron comes to town. Get the hell out of here with Akron. So I mean, even in your scenario, worst case scenario on this show, 3-1 start. I got South Carolina, of course, winning that game. So a 4-0 start for the season. I think probably 90% of Gamecock fans would take 3-0 to start the season. I really do.
What is a zip? I don't even know what that is. Is that an animal or something?
A zip?
Akron zips. Isn't that what their thing? Isn't that what they're known for?
They are. I think because they're
like
zipping.
A kangaroo or something?
I think it's because they're zipping right off the field when South Carolina shuts them down here.
Yeah, pull it. It's a kangaroo, right? What a terrible. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, somebody had to say, "Hey, let's pick an animal because every team's got one." And somebody says, "You know what they don't have?" Oh, wait, that may be a rabbit. I don't know. Shit, I don't know. It's a terrible logo.
It's Zippy.
What the hell? It's a lighter?
Yeah, it's a kangaroo is what it is.
Yeah, so that's exactly what happened. Says, you know what they don't have? Kangaroos. You know?
They're all over Akron, Shane. Didn't you know that?
Oh, geez. Akron's known for their kangaroos. All right. No, 3-1 for me, 4-0 for you.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Shane, I think the party comes to an end there October 5th.
Yeah.
And again, this is just because I think Ole Miss is so damn good. I mean, I got a preseason, top 5, top 4 in the country. I think they're of that caliber. So South Carolina, maybe they pull a stunner here, but again, 4-1 would be a hell of a start, I think, for the South Carolina Gamecocks. Give me Ole Miss, and this says more about the Rebels than it does South Carolina.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that was kind of brought up a few years ago is Cocktober. That was what they were known for, but by gosh, this is a damn slate. This is a gauntlet they got to go through. They got Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma, then Texas A&M, all four actually coming in. So, brother, it's going to be tough sledding, but they've got to find one. And I think an optimistic South Carolina fan is going to find a victory during at least these first three games. And unfortunately, I'm with you. I don't think it will be the Ole Miss Rebels. So 3-2.
And then the following week, Shane, on the road at Alabama. Hey, maybe Galen DeBoer's a big bust. And all these Saban guys are out the door. Their defense is in shambles. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that is a path to get you a win here in Tuscaloosa. But until we actually see it, we can just, all us non-Alabama people can hope and pray for that. But I almost got to see that to believe it. You know what I mean? To where I can't have South Carolina coming in there and whooping Alabama's ass just yet. Again, now, Alabama be coming off a Georgia game or a trip to Wisconsin. They're losing all these games. Maybe things go sideways on them. But I have to say Alabama. Give me Alabama here, and it's probably not even that close.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go Alabama as well. There's just something about that patch, man. You're going to, it feels like last year we kept hopping up the Clemson game, and we're like, or the first year Beamer ball, I remember, and it's like, man, things are going right, things are going good, and then you just made the patch bigger than it should have been, and there was a lot of stupid mistakes out there. I still think there's going to be a little bit of that lingering effect with Alabama. Can you get them? Absolutely. I'm not saying that. I would say this is the closest gap South Carolina's ever had since Beamer's been over there. So I don't know. I'm not saying an upset can't happen, but I don't think it happens that week.
Right. Then the following week at Oklahoma, Shane, I truly do think this is a winnable game, particularly if Oklahoma's offensive line really starts to fall apart. But the one bad thing. And maybe this is a good thing. I don't know, but particularly I think this will be so important to Oklahoma. I don't think they'll overlook it. This is the only game, Shane, in over a month that Oklahoma gets at home.
Yeah.
So they'll be going through a little bit of a gauntlet. I'll throw up their schedule real quick. Tennessee, at Auburn, Texas, then the South Carolina, and then at Ole Miss. So if Oklahoma is not winning this game, their season is just horrible.
Yeah.
So I just think this will be uber important for Oklahoma. It'll be equally important for South Carolina and company, but I got to lean on the road in Norman. Give me Oklahoma here, and I hate to do it, but I have to say the Sooners on this one.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Again, the Sooners, I think, is just going to be a little too much to handle. I do like their defense. I think at this point Jackson's going to finally have his identity established, and it may be just too tough. If you had this one at home, maybe we have an upset, but you know what? I think we may have an upset here, Mike. You know why? Because I love the game placement. If you look at Oklahoma's schedule, it's sandwiched between Texas and Ole Miss. And they've already, every Oklahoma fan, you get them on the phone right now and you say, hey, October 19th, are you going to win or lose that game? They're wanting to say, hey, I'm hoping we get out by halftime so we can go eat at the Cracker Barrel earlier. That's what they're saying right now. But I'm telling you, brother, this is a sneaky, sneaky game placement. And I think out of those three games, if South Carolina's going to pull one of them off, it's going to be Oklahoma.
I hate to tell you this, Shane.
Yeah.
I know you've not made the trip to Norman yet. I don't think they got Cracker Barrel out in
No?
Oklahoma.
No, Cracker Barrel's everywhere. You can't be in the SEC and not have a Cracker Barrel. I've ate there twice this week.
I'll have to double check that, but I'm not so sure about that.
I may change everything if I find out Cracker Barrel's not near Norman.
All right, how about the next week, Shade? Texas A&M. Man, again, murderer's row here. Ole Miss, Bama, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. again, talking about schedule placement, though, look at A&M, Shane. They got Arkansas, Mizzou, Mississippi State, LSU, and then South Carolina. So, I mean, this is really going to be a test of who's got a deeper roster, a test of wills. Both these teams are going to be beaten and battered coming into this matchup. Who's the tougher? Who's the more physical team? And last time A&M played at Columbia, Shane, South Carolina whooped them.
Yeah.
So this is a very winnable game, I think. A&M's one of the biggest mysteries in the SEC. They could be awesome. They could be going to the college football playoff. They could be a fringe bowl team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we just don't quite know. They have suffered a lot of defections, completely new coaching staff. So, hey, there's a lot of reasons to believe, and I'm buying in, Shane, with these glasses on. Give me South Carolina. I don't even know if this will be an upset come this point of the season, but South Carolina snaps their losing streak here. This would be a huge win for the Gamecocks.
Hey, I've got them coming off a huge victory out there in Oklahoma. So they come home. What are they going to do? They're going to put away a rival team, Texas A&M. I think it's very, very possible. It's going to be at home. Hopefully, I don't know the time on this one. Hopefully it's a night game, or at least pushed back a little bit. But one thing that I do like about this matchup is it is a rivalry, and you may not think of it as one because there's so much distance in between them. But these teams know each other and they hate each other, and those always play better. I always enjoy them. And South Carolina, Shane Beamer and company, they know these are the games they have to get to take that step forward. A&M has got a lot of question marks, and right now I know you're a little higher on them than I am. This is another team that I'm really down on this season because I do think there's too many moving pieces. Does Connor stay healthy? Does this new coaching staff work out? Does the offense progress? Does these new transfer portal guys, do they acclimate in the new system? I mean, there's so many factors, but more importantly, it's coming off a tail end of a streak of tough games. Who knows? They may have lost 2 before this one and kind of reeling themselves. So yeah, I think if you ask a South Carolina fan, well, maybe not the Mississippi State, I forgot about that one, but Mizzou, LSU, 3 weeks, you got maybe 2 losses, but more importantly, Mike, I just think that this is a game that South Carolina has to have. So give me another win right here at home. Absolutely. We've only got 2 more home games left. This is another one.
We went from Beaver fired to Beaver contract extension here.
I do this, and I know I try not to get like too much of a homer on these takes and stuff, but I'm not lying to you. Ever since I told you that Shane Beamer will be that was a bold take, that Shane Beamer would be the first coach fired, I find reasons why I'm wrong. I wasn't as confident as a secondary as I am now. I wasn't as confident as this defensive line as I am now. I'm not as confident as Lenore Sellers as I am now. And then every time it feels like I get some sort of South Carolina news, it's another little chip on why did I make that stupid statement. So yeah, maybe I'm leaning a little too much into it, but I do think South Carolina is going the right way.
Right. So okay, red hot South Carolina next at Vanderbilt. Shaded. We posted Vanderbilt's updated stadium.
Yeah.
They'll have a couple dozen extra fans based on what we have seen there. But
I love the comments on that one. I don't know if most of it's like, oh, that's cute. It's like, you smart asses.
Yeah, welcome to the 20th, 21st century there, Vanderbilt. But it ain't going to matter come this game, Shane. I know, we poking fun and say maybe this is the one Vanderbilt steals, but I'm sure South Carolina has heard that all off season too. When people are saying you may lose to Vanderbilt, as if you needed any more motivation to whoop their ass, give me a win here for the Gamecocks, make it 2 in a row, and it could set up for a really nice end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a big one. And again, you're carrying momentum now. Recruiting starting to pick up. I think things are moving forward at this point as a South Carolina.
Right. And then, this will be a tricky one, though. Mizzou comes to town, and who knows? Looking at Mizzou's schedule, Shane, I mean, they could be a little bit beaten and battered themselves.
Yeah.
Bama, Oklahoma, back to back. And for South Carolina fans that may not realize this, they're basically putting all the chips on the table, Cousin Shane included, for that Oklahoma game come November 9th. So let's say Missouri finds a way to lose that game. They could be smarting. This is a classic. I don't know if you want to call it trap game, Shane, or just one of those where college, it happens every year, Shane, where one loss turns into two for a team.
Yeah.
Could that be the case for the Missouri Tigers against South Carolina in the good Columbia? It certainly could be, Shane. It could be. But again, I think the world of Missouri right now, my pick says more about what I think about Missouri than it does South Carolina. So even as a South Carolina homer on this show, I have to pick Missouri to win this game.
Yeah, and like you said, you got to be careful with this game, especially if you're coming from the Mizzou side, because if you get down a couple scores, this is now a team that you probably could rely a little bit on that running game, slow this thing down, play a little keep away. Not that that's the game script, but you have the pieces to do that if needed. But I'm right there with you. I think Mizzou maybe next year, maybe a different situation. But I'm too high on Brady. I'm too high on the weapons that Mizzou's bringing in there, and I think they've just got a little too much firepower for South Carolina to stay in this one.
And then the final home game of the season, Shane Wolford. I know just last week I said this is a trap game for South Carolina. Get the hell out of here. This is a trap. How many points we going to put up on the board? So they're going to blow the doors off Wolford, right?
My God. I it's like you go from the Zips and the Kangaroos to maybe – quite possibly the weakest dog to ever exist. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like every beauty shop has this dog, You know what I'm saying? So get that bastard out of here. You got you another victory.
And then the season finale on the road, arch rival Clemson. They got you last year. They got lucky as hell, but you whooped them 2 years ago in Clemson. Dabo's got him a quarterback. He's got a Lincoln Riley's brother, Shane, at offensive coordinator. All I heard last year was, my God, do you know they got Lincoln Riley's brother? They're going to tear through the ACC. They played Kentucky in a damn bowl game. That's how good they were. So the decline of Clemson continues, Shane. Give me South Carolina, 8-4, optimistic record. And that would prove a lot of these doubters wrong. I think that would result in Shane Beamer getting a big pay bump and a contract extension, and recruiting would be better than ever if the Gamecocks could go 8-4 this year. Could you see him beating Clemson?
Yeah, I do. And not even as a homer. I'm just saying it could happen this year because South Carolina – if you look at Clemson, they're on a path themselves, and it's not the right way. And when you're starting to hear rumbles about some of these, it's so funny. You talk about ACC teams, and they're like, who's got a good shot to win it all? Well, who doesn't? Clemson. I just think that they take a major step back and maybe spark that hot seat talk. Maybe get Dabo out of there altogether, but everybody's ready for Clemson just to go away. So you do that by putting them away November 30th.
Now, last thing we love to hit on, Shane, most important games to win for the South Carolina Gamecocks. And the way I'm looking at this, Shane, whatever the goal is, whether it's make postseason, get to 8 wins, what have you. We could sit here and say Alabama, Ole Miss, and Clemson, biggest games. I get all that. But what I'm really trying to say are, maybe the toss-ups, what are the ones that if they win it, we can really have a really good year realistically. What is the number one most important game on South Carolina's schedule?
Mike, you could put all 3 of them for that Kentucky one. That is a massive football game. It's away. It's a must-win situation. 2 fan bases expecting a victory, but I think it just sends you down one of the 2 paths, either a good one or a bad one.
Now, what do you think? This might catch you off guard, but what do you think I have as the number 2 most important game for South Carolina to
That's
win?
a great question, and I think, me personally, I think you've got to go Texas A&M here. Coming off Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma, there's a real shot, guys, that you've lost 3 of those. How do you and you have a chance to kind of change your direction, your first home game with a rival team at the Aggies.
And now you were very close, Shane. I put that number 3 for all the reasons you said.
Yeah.
And if you win it, you can really get some momentum, knock you off Vanderbilt, Wofford, and who knows, maybe even Missouri. But I don't think you got a shot against Missouri if you can't beat A&M.
Yeah.
2 weeks before. So it's just critically important to get that momentum. But there's one other home game that I've got listed I think is more important if we really want to prove the doubters wrong and kill some narratives early in the season. Which way you think I'm
Well,
going
you
there?
have it as a toss. So I'm going September 14th, the LSU Tigers, right?
Yeah, you nailed it. And again, I'm not saying, guaranteed win. I'm not saying if you lose it, your season's in the toilet. But I just think that of the people that are negative, of the people that are calling Shane Beamer out, if they win this game, all that dies.
Yeah.
And they say, man, whatever bad mojo they had, they have recaptured if they could beat Kentucky, which again, that's a big if. And turn around and beat LSU. I mean, we may throw this team in the top 25, and they probably deserve it for those back-to-back wins. So I just think this would be huge for the Gamecocks, and they have won games like this in the past.
Yeah.
So don't tell me they can't do it. But it would be a tall drink of water. But you win Kentucky, you win LSU. That's how you get to 8 wins this year.
I'm a little different on this one. If you're going back to that schedule, for me, I think it's got to be either the Mizzou or the Clemson game, and I'm kind of leaning more toward Clemson because October is going to be a rough month, possibly. And if that happens, how do you bounce back? Because if people don't remember October if you have a great November, and if you close out, if you win A&M, you beat Vanderbilt, you beat Wofford, you beat Clemson, you've won, and maybe you lose to Mizzou. Who cares? It's 4 out of 5 games at the tail end of that season. Now you've got something to sell those recruits. Now you got something to sell those boosters. That next year is the year for you guys. So I don't know. I think it's closing the season more than it is opening it.
Right, and to your point, Shade, again, I'm not trying to drag South Carolina down, but how many times have people mentioned the Tennessee win, the Clemson win? Do you remember the 2, I think it was the 2 or 3 games before those big wins? Do you remember what happened?
They got destroyed.
In Florida. Yeah. But nobody gave a damn about that because it was all about whooping some ass, ruin playoff chances for some people. And to your point, that's what people are going to remember. They're not going to remember the low. They're going to remember the highs, not the lows.
Forget the Florida one because I put so much money on against South Carolina the following week, and it really backfired on me big time. So when you lose money, it kind of sticks with you a little bit longer.
Yep. All right, brother. So anything before we hop off the line, close out this South Carolina preview show?
No, man. I again, we do these. I get down on teams, and then these are like uplifting shows. So now all of a sudden, South Carolina may be on the rise.
They can do no wrong.
That's right, man. Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out, watching the program. We got more of these coming. The season is right around the corner. Cannot wait for it. But that's going to do it for this episode of the show. We'll catch you on the next one.
See you guys. Spurs up.